In progress.
Is it too loud? Are you down there?
Rich.
No, it's all right.
I'm so used to him not being here.
One meeting in 10 years.
Oh, you were at the BZA.
Very long week. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Ulysses Town Board. It is May 28th, 2024, and I'll call this meeting to order at 7:01 p.m. May we please have a roll call?
Yes, Mr. Goldman,
Present.
Ms. Olson,
Present.
Ms. Weatherby,
Present.
Ms. Bouchard,
Present.
Michael Boggs is absent.
We had an agenda that was posted last Friday. I understand that there are a couple requested additions to it. Rich, you had one?
The meeting, the thing Roxanne sent around, what's it called?
Oh, CFP.
Community Preservation, EPA.
That's terrible. I just got to do one. Can I borrow your business extra for the agenda?
You're more official than this.
Well, I can get this back. I just want to make sure I don't forget something. We can add that under D, new business. And then, Carissa, you had an item for E, new business, that you circulated. And it's a request for waiving 30 days review on a liquor license.
Right.
So. Okay, so.
We talked about an update on the properties, but we're gonna do that with the advice of council.
Yeah.
Okay.
That development district.
No,
No, development district stuff won't, development district 8 stuff won't be coming back till next. Well, the plan is to introduce the proposed legislation on June 11th, I think that's our meeting date. And then if people feel comfortable, we could schedule the public hearing for the following meeting in June.
Which
So,
proposed legislation?
The development district 8, if we sent it to, Morris Marine
Oh, the
for
expansion of
the,
that.
for the pavilion.
And the inn has just dropped off, they're not saying anything?
They have not requested to come back in, and they know my number
Okay,
and made them available in a couple of meetings in March and April, and I'm sure they're just working through their own stuff, so. They're not in a forthcoming resolution or forthcoming agenda at this point. Okay, are there any other changes or alterations to the agenda? Then I'll accept a motion to approve as amended. Is
so moved.
there a second?
second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Brings us to privilege of the floor. Is there anybody, you'll go back and forth, there's 3 minutes, I get my timer going. Back and forth, in person, and then online, to anybody who wishes to address the board for up to 3 minutes. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address us?
Don't we usually have the online screen up there so we see the names of?
That's because.
Maybe there's
nobody
nobody
else.
on.
Anybody else? Yeah, there's only one participant.
That is us. Nice. I'm sure it'll be must-see YouTube TV in the future.
Flipped again.
Okay, so, and there's no privilege of the floor, request at this point? Oh,
Okay, I could just briefly speak to the Community Preservation Act. I got that email, I you probably read.
Well, we put it on the agenda.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying, if you want to know anymore, all I know is what I wrote to you guys,
Right.
and it's just at this point, a memorandum of support.
Right.
To the 2 committees, the Assembly and the Senate, to consider it further. It doesn't commit to everything.
Right.
So what I know about it is what I wrote. And a little bit
Yeah.
more, so if you want to know when you're talking about it, let me know. That's all.
sounds good. Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, now we can go forward. I'd like to welcome MRB up to talk to us tonight. MRB, we received a DEC grant to study 6 culverts. And the purpose of this grant was to identify the 6 priority culverts in the town for putting them on a replacement schedule. And the grant specifically that we applied for is the one you apply for in advance of getting onto the list to actually request the money to do the actual work. So this is the first step, and I'd like to welcome on up to tell us your findings.
Thanks for having us again. I'm Matt McKenna with MRB, and this is Corey Hurley. He's the brains and the technical behind it all. So good summary there. The town was awarded up to $30,000 with a 10% match. So really good value, but that report and planning grant is really to go after projects and assess culverts in need for repair, replacement, you name it. Of those 6 culverts, MRB, there was one on Maplewood Road, Curry Road, Agard Road, Garrett Road, Reynolds Road, and Iredell Road. And those 6 were identified to the town that MRB then went and took a look at after we applied and were awarded the planning grant. MRB did a site visit in fall 2023. There's 3 of us. There's a structural engineer, stormwater engineer, and myself, who's been working with the town, and went out with Scott Stewart, town highway superintendent. What got us, getting out on site, we got to see the culvert, we got to take pictures, we got to document conditions, we got to walk through the pipes, the structures themselves, and really got the feel for them. We also had GPS survey equipment so that we were able to go out there and get survey grade quality data points so that we could evaluate them hydraulically. So not only could we pull a tape to see what the measurements were, but we could also see what the slope was across that pipe so that we could then run calculations and see what the capacity of those culverts were. So we'll start with Maplewood Road. This culvert is near Maplewood Point Road, right along the lake there. Steep fall off cliff right upstream with it, with a private drive downstream. Portions of this area have private infrastructure retaining walls that have been installed and maintained by residents along the lake there. Other portions were.
Do you want to direct people to do I have it on the right?
Oh,
picture?
yeah, you're good right now, and I'll let you know. So, flow coming down here, goes through a box culvert, which is, has a roadway crossing over top of it. And what I'd like to show you with some of these existing pictures is there's steel, plates and bolts anchored into the bottom right at the forefront there. It's difficult to see with the picture, but you got a bit of a bow right at the center point of that box culvert itself. Upstream, and if you want to scroll through a couple more pictures, Chris, so on the left side, right where the truck is parked, that's a retaining wall holding back the wall or the road, as well as a portion of this, the soil embankment. That's actually got a lean to it, off deflection, so out of plumb. Obviously, that's starting to show age, signs of age and wear. If you go to another picture, Chris, there's downstream. After the culvert, you got concrete degradation. You don't ever really want to see your aggregate, but you definitely don't want to see rebar, and there's definitely signs of exposed rebar. Let's see if there's another picture off the top of my head. So this is just further downstream, looking at the condition of it. It's definitely shown its age. Hydraulically, it has the capacity, so you don't need a bigger opening. You don't need you don't need 2 pipes. You don't need, hydraulically the size and span are sufficient. It's really just the condition. I forget what the date was that the Army Corps of Engineers was involved with helping construct some of this, but at this point, in our opinion, this is probably a complete replacement of that box culvert. We've spoken with the town. The town has had success with Bridge NY grants. This could be a candidate through that program. We don't personally deal with it too much. We are involved with projects through Bridge NY, but that may be a viable approach for pursuing grant dollars. But this structure will be in need of replacement in our opinion. The next one we looked at was Garrett Road near Houghton Road intersection. If you want to scroll, Chris.
That one.
Yeah, Garrett Road. So Garrett Road, patches of piping, you can actually see this is on the outlet side looking upstream. The town had tried to line that with another piece of sheet metal because the bottom of the pipe had corroded out and was exposed at the bottom. If you scroll to another one. This is on the outlet side. The town has been involved with stabilizing the bank because Where it had originally terminated from on that bank was starting to erode the conditions downstream.
Hmm.
So the pipe was extended out further to the downstream slope, and there's those rock baskets. You can see like chicken wire holding back that stone. Those are called gabion baskets. That's a retaining wall, a type of retaining wall. So that was added. So, you know, these temporary measures have probably helped protect the road over the last 5-10 years since the town has improved it. But some of the downstream riprap where you have water cascading out and falling off has washed away. So
Hmm.
back in a position again where some of the improvements and repairs that the town has been proactively doing have now been are exposed again for further erosion and washing out of sediment downstream. Next one, Chris. And this is actually the upstream side. So downstream, we saw corrugated metal pipe. You actually got a steel pipe, which looks like it could have been lined inside a concrete culvert at one time. Really
Wow.
poor conditions from a hydraulic standpoint. You know, obviously the smoother, the straighter, the better, right? From a hydraulic standpoint. So having all these jagged, you know, sheet metal sticking out, you name it, it's just gonna limit the capacity of it. And there's only so much we can mimic with the model.
Yeah.
Can't really plug this friction factor into the equation, but we can get close enough. And then I think one more picture shows the upstream side. Oh, that's more of the condition of the bottom of the pipe.
Wow.
And then one more upstream shows a head wall. This looked to be in serviceable condition. This pipe is not hydraulically limited. But this pipe has seen the light, its life has seen its useful service life, you know. That condition is in need of replacement. I don't know that a repair is warranted here. And one thing that we'll talk about a little bit later is approaches for going out for grant dollars and the different programs that are available. And this one may fit a nice niche here through the WQIP, the Water Quality Improvement Program. So. Next one, I think is Agard Road. So Agard Road is right by Jacksonville Road, upstream of the solar field there, solar panels. This pipe is sufficiently undersized. When we do our evaluations hydraulically through the program, they wanted us to look at the 50 and 100-year storm events. And this pipe, this culvert itself couldn't pass the 50 or the 100. And the town has actually documented multiple scenarios where the road has overflowed. And overtopping the road is obviously you got an undersized stormwater culvert, or it could be downstream, it could be upstream. But really the potential the side effects is that you can start washing out your roadways. You can be doing more impact to your infrastructure other than just stormwater itself.
Well, I want to ask you a question. Have you prioritized what you think the most?
We were trying to get there.
Okay.
But yes, we have. This also showed signs of corrosion on the outlet side, where it discharges to. On the other side of the road, there's some wetland cattail areas with some channelized flow along property owners' side of his lot. Being undersized, there's likely additional study and evaluation that would need to be performed here, unlike the other two culverts that were had hydraulic capacity and was just a structural. You want to make sure that any improvements to the pipe or the culvert itself, you want to make sure that you're not impacting anyone upstream or downstream. You just go open that opening up, let all the water down. What are we doing to the person downstream of it? So. Anything you got to add there, Cory? You go to the next one, Chris. So this is the outlet side, so discharge into this area that had a private pond and some like a drainage swale on the property, and that's just the unknown of how much water we let down and what are we going to do without evaluating it. Curry Road, so this is the next one. Curry Road, I want to say they were about 95 by 120-inch elliptical pipes. There's two pipes, twin culverts. This is the biggest drainage area that we saw of the culvert, so it contributes a significant amount of flow. This is in the floodplain. Which has some considerations, the town sent us a video during a storm event. We don't know what the intensity of the storm, how much flow was contributed on that day. But the property owner, the upstream property owner's yard was completely flooded and the water was coming up towards the road, to the top of the road. So a documented condition of potentially limited capacity, but also flooding in that area. One thing that we talked about potentially earlier from a prioritization standpoint is aquatic connectivity. So the DEC through this program is looking at how well can fish, frogs, amphibians, turkeys, whatever, make its way upstream so that we're not limited their reach in the environment. So anywhere where you have a fall off point at the outlet of the pipe, that can impact the connectivity. So a lot of times having what they call a live bottom condition, where you actually have a stream bed, a rock stream bed that flows through the channel naturally without a drop off, is a preferred design consideration that this culvert doesn't have, and same as Garrett, where we had that big drop. You go to the next one, please. So that's the two outlets. So those pipes were shown to be nearly overtopping the roadway with our hydraulic model at both the 50 and the 100-year, and that's confirmed with the video that was seen or taken by the town. So it's a tremendous amount of water. And certainly this span was proposed to take us to about 27 foot. So 27 foot wide, anything over a 20-foot wide width of an opening starts to get you into a classification of a bridge. It can still be constructed as a box culvert, but it comes into play with the long-term operation and maintenance. We see sometimes counties get involved when a bridge identification number is provided for a culvert that goes beyond 20 feet. So county by county, they may take that maintenance over for the life of it. So something to keep in mind, but it just shows you the magnitude of the impacts here. And one thing to note with going to a clear span is you have that divide between the two pipes. Any stick, debris, you name it, that wants to come down that stream is just going to become a blockage and a hindrance for anything moving downstream in that. Creating a clear span can help things continue to move.
Where is this on Quarter Road?
Brewery Road, it's west of Waterbury Road.
Okay.
And then I want to say this goes
Okay.
right to, I think there's another bridge crossing downstream of this before
Yeah.
Taconic. So it's a lot of water that makes its way through.
Yeah.
That's the upstream side. So you can see actually those logs between the two. So your
Yeah.
upstream looking downstream will capture and collect. And not only does that split of the pipes impact and decrease your hydraulic capacity, it also is a capture point. So
Yeah.
Reynolds Road, this is near Podunk Road. This culvert consisted of two parallel elliptical riveted pipes. Both culverts interior walking through those showed signs of corrosion. An old bolted steel pipe. There's been instances where the town has noted nearly overtopping the road, which is obviously not desirable. The gravity block there is in okay condition, but when you have a surcharge condition where those pipes are full and water building up behind it, you're going to continue to get erosion and wash away behind it. So this modeling for the 50 and 100-year also showed that those culverts were undersized. And part of the undersize is one of the design standards that Corey looked at is through the Department of Transportation, and their guidance document wants you to maintain 2 foot of freeboard. So from the edge of pavement to the high water level, they want you to try and maintain 2 feet. And that's part of that safety factor of protecting your roadways and everything else. That's looking downstream. That's, if you were able to scroll a little bit, that's the degree of corrosion, so those bolts were actually just popping off with a notch, so. They've probably likely seen their life and are, did,
Because they're no longer bolting. right?
did their job, but, that's just a general condition of some of the culverts within the town, so it's. And I think we got one more with Iredell. So this is Iredell Road. This pipe in a picture too, you may see it. It looks to be like an actual old freight train fuel storage tank.
Oh.
Repurposed, found with a second life. Of the priorities, this one's probably at the bottom. Downstream of this is it looks to be the same exact pipe. We didn't document the condition of it. It was outside of our scope, but just poking our heads downstream, it looked to be about the same size pipe. So we start looking at anything proposed to increase the size, you know, you may be limited downstream anyways, and that could have been intended, but. This one had the aquatic connectivity. I think it had a fall off at the end of it. Yeah, there we go. So that's where you have that gap. And one of the programs and the guidances that we'll get into it, just running through the proposed designs is the North Atlantic Aquatic Connectivity Collaboration has actually gone out and scored the ability for aquatic life to pass through, and there's various parameters. One being 100%, 0 being a 0. Garrett Road actually scored a 0.00. And I want to see the other scores. Go ahead.
So Curry was 0.19, which I think that defines it as a severe barrier for aquatic connectivity. And then Iredell, this one here scored 0.59, which is still a barrier for aquatic connectivity, followed by Reynolds Road at 0.67, Agard Road at 0.77, and Maplewood Road at 0.79.
So there's obviously portions of the WQIP program for replacing culverts. There is an aquatic connectivity portion of it, and also as part of the other program, part of that program, but a separate allocation for just repair replacement. Having poor aquatic connectivity helps your project score better, and that's ultimately what you want to do, is try to find grant dollars to help offset the capital costs. And some of the improvements that we've looked at for these projects have incorporated the live bottom culvert, so that you can go and hopefully get a better score from that perspective.
So thank you very much.
Yeah.
So while you're here, so we met, Scott and Michelle, and I met, with MRV last week to go over, the draft report. And so there's material in your packet about what our kind of proposed solutions are. Maplewood was identified as being the highest priority. We already have a New York State, we already have a New York Bridge New York grant in, that we were encouraged to put in, by the grant agency. So we're waiting to hear back on the results of that. For tonight, what we're proposing, is, doing a gatekeeper resolution, and applying for funding through the QUIP program for Garrett Road, because it scores so poorly and it's ideally suited to be funded by this particular grant source. It'd be our most competitive grant in that funding cycle. And then additionally, I'm gonna do a little bit later a board notification related to putting all of our eligible projects on the New York State SEFC Plus system. And that's a system where you put yourself on a list so that you can, there's no financial cost associated with being on the list, and it puts us on the list to apply for financing or grants through the EFC in the future. And this is getting on this list is the only way to become eligible for either financing or grant funding through the EFC. And this in particular is going to be highly likely necessary for both the Curry project, the Curry Road culvert, which may be a future bridge, and Agard culverts, because the cost of those replacements is going to be well in excess of what we can afford to pay out of pocket. So those, when you were, because your question about what are the highest priorities, that was the exact question I had of how to handle them. Maplewood, correct? You came back
Yep.
with that as first. Curry Road after that. Third one
It's Agard
was
Road,
Agard, and then it was Garrett.
correct,
So, and then Reynolds and who's at the very bottom.
Iredell afterwards.
So, all of these are going to need repair and most likely replacement, but those are clocking in the highest. So our tentative plan would be tonight, with approval to go after, money for, Garrett Road through the QUIP process. And then put ourselves on the list. You can only get yourself on the list. It's once a year, right? There's an open.
Yeah, so part of this, with this engineering report is now we have a document that we'll submit to the funding agency as well as the DEC, and they'll provide comments and an approval, right? So we'll have an approved engineering report. That reporting by itself can go on to the plus system, which is just a metric of scores and how they get ranked over the years. And you can stay on that list for as many years as you want until you cross off all 6 culverts. But it's a means for you to also, if you were to get a grant through the WIP, be able to get a loan through New York State EFC, and depending on all different factors, interest rates change and can be competitive. The projects were across the board, probably in the 700,000 to $1 million. I want to say
Curry came in back over $1 million, yeah.
Curry Road was the most at 2 million. And I can just rattle those out. So Maplewood was 779,000. Garrett Road was 674,000. Agard Road was 958,000. Curry Road 2.0 million. Reynolds Road 1.17, and Iredell Road was 679,000. So these are sizable projects, right? And we're talking about 6 of the 200+ culverts that the town-wide. So going out and being proactive for the grant dollars while there's funding available is, in our opinion, there's up to $1 million with a 25% grant. So you can receive up to $1 million with a 25% match, depending on the project size.
So that's the, if you're amenable to, Matt and Corey are here bringing forth those items that are on the agenda. So there's under new business, a gatekeeper resolution for the CFA Garrett Road QUIP, and also an authorization to procure a CFA application with MRB. So those are 2 resolutions in the resolution packet.
When you said 25% match, if it's $1 million, how much would the town?
250,000.
250.
For this particular project, it's clocking in at about $700,000. So it would, we would have 25% of that,
Oh, okay.
or whatever the, what the breakout is, right?
We better boost up our reserve.
Well, these bridges these culverts aren't gonna get any cheaper, nor are they gonna get magically fixed. So, and like I said, we went after the DEC money in the first place to put this report together. So this is the process we could work, because otherwise without that grant,
Right,
we don't get in the pipeline, literally.
yeah.
And just one other, sorry, Liz, were you gonna say something?
Nope, you can go.
I was just gonna say, going back to your priority rankings, the other thing to keep in mind is obviously Curry Road and Agard Road were a higher priority and from our findings, a higher priority than Garrett. But from what we're seeing in Curry Road being in a floodplain, additional evaluation is likely gonna be warranted before we go and say, this is what the solution is, that we're gonna go and apply for grant dollars, because the last thing you wanna do is have impact downstream or upstream. And Curry Road being in the floodplain, Army Corps of Engineers and the DEC will require a HEC-RAS analysis, which is to confirm and show that there's no upstream or downstream impact. And we're seeing that a lot more often.
So that's a high likelihood for future Bridge New York funding.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed we get the Maplewood. Because we resubmitted with new feedback, that was helpful. Michelle actually worked on, she was a reviewer for Bridge New York project, so she was able to take that knowledge and infuse it into our last application. So hopefully that helps. If that's the case, then the plan would be to set up Curry Road for a next phase of Bridge New York, but there will be, as you pointed out, it will be necessary to go through an additional review.
Stormwater evaluation.
And would there be more DC grants available to do that study, those studies that were?
That's a good question. I think my understanding with this previously is you can't study the same project again. But it's not to say that there's not additional pot of money that we could look at, but it's something to definitely keep on your radar.
When is the water quality improvement, what do you call it, WQIP?
WQIP, great question.
When is
So,
that due?
so, coming up, June 14th is when we would submit the engineering report to get listed on the Plus system. That would be on there for years moving forward. MRB will take care of that, listen that on, and then the CFA, which is what the WQIP grant is through. That has a submission deadline of July 31st. So, we've been out working with other clients, getting this in the process, trying to see who's doing the yes or no so that we can start working on these and prep for the July 31st submission.
So there's a resolution tonight to basically give the go-ahead for a gatekeeper resolution. To allow them to proceed, and then also to complete the professional services necessary. This is the second resolution to get our application together then, and the service, it's a flat fee of $5,200. It's under our procurement policy, it falls under professional services because they've been working on this and the knowledge they bring to it because they've already been imbued into the grant process. They're the natural professional entity to move forward. And so that's kind of where we are. So that was 2 resolutions and a board notification regarding getting on the list. Any questions about that? Any further discussion you want
Where's
Oh,
to have?
the gatekeeper is on?
We're not allowed, I'm not allowed, you're not allowed to go and apply for money that has financial impact to the town. And that hasn't been reviewed by staff without approval. So this is giving us the go ahead.
So try to go after as much money as we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
These need to get replaced. They're in bad shape.
And it frequently takes multiple applications to get
Yeah.
success, as we saw with our current Curry Road allocation for a different bridge. But but a needed one also.
That one's really bad.
Yeah, it was indignant. We were rapidly approaching closure on that one, so.
Yes.
Okay, well, if there aren't any additional questions, is there a motion to approve the gatekeeper resolution for the CFA, which is a consolidated funding application to the Water Quality Improvement Program, put for replacement of the Garrett Road culverts?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. And then the second resolution that is a contract authorization for professional services. You're to be authorizing me to execute the proposal from MRB to complete the QUIP grant application as part of the CFA for a flat fee of $5,200. Is there a motion to approve? For a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, and I did, I pulled it up, but it's the, for the board notification, so number 9, item A, I notified on that. Out of order. Excellent, anybody have any other questions, while we have MRB captive?
Just looking at these, is this what existing and this is what
Yeah.
potential proposed?
Exactly, I should have touched on that. So Maplewood, box culvert, we saw that square opening before, proposed in the same. That's, you know, would have been a replacement in kind.
Oh, that's big.
This is Garrett Road, where we had the pipe with the fall off at the end that eroded the downstream bank. This is the one that we're going for would be going for the WQIP, looking at the aquatic connectivity. So by having an arch pipe with a natural channel bottom, we tried to match the downstream elevation of the stream bed. So that promotes that connectivity to the upstream conditions. That's where they start looking at the score and what our proposed solution does to that 0.00 will help score the project. So that's some of the guidance that Corey evaluated as part of the planning grant. Agard Road, so that existing pipe was, let's tell you that. So that pipe was 65 inches wide by 45 inches tall. The now sized opening is 19.5 feet by 3'9". So that just shows you hydraulically the size that's required. And that, I would say that's pretty significant change in area. Natural bottom, again, we'd be able to look at going for targeting that aquatic connectivity from, you know, trying to show a better approach to get. And again, I didn't mention it, but these aren't written in stone. We could get into design and evaluate different options, part of that same guidance. But it's a solution that helps us develop a cost estimate. This is Curry Road, so we went from those twin culvert pipes to a 27-foot wide by 9-foot pipe opening. And you can see this is the low shoulder, the edge of pavement. Our high water level, we're at a 100-year event, we're just at that 2-foot requirement. So even going to a 27-foot wide opening, we're still just barely meeting that guidance. And that's a significant amount of volume. And then Reynolds Road, similar condition, existing live bottom of the channel, box culvert opening. This is the preferred approach, to have a live bottom rather than a 4-sided box culvert. There's additional requirements if you do go to a 4-sided box culvert that impacts cost, so.
Related with the live bottom ones, are over the long term, is there erosion factors that impact the structural stability of the culvert? You know what I mean? As that surface continues to erode, especially if a lot of water is going through it.
That's a good question. I know from other experiences at MRB, they'll make us look at the scouring velocity and size in the rock, the size of what you're putting in that stream. So yes, it's definitely taken into consideration.
I know everyone's probably
Yeah.
different based on the geological
And then-
factors.
And then another couple good questions is, what's the life of this? Arch pipe where we were looking at for Garrett Road may be 50 years, where a concrete box culvert could be 70 years. That pipe, that's the old freight car fuel storage tank, it had a date stamp, I think, of 1969. So like, what's the life remaining? Just based on current design standards, it's easy to just say those pumps have reached the end of it,
Right,
so.
yeah.
But that's the life that these structures would be designed with. Let's see, Irwell Road. And that's an arch pipe, again, not written in stone, but you can see, because of that elevation, you're able to actually keep the pipe a little bit smaller, knowing that you have essentially volume upstream of it so that you can flow under a pressure condition. So all things that would be further refined during design. It allows us to look at it, and the costs are scary when you start thinking 600 is $1,000 is the lowest cost. But our roadway is 1120.7. The bottom of our channel is 1107. There's 13-14 feet just to dig up a roadway. Now we got to take our footers, our concrete foundation for that, probably 5 or 6 more feet. So now you're starting to dig 25 feet in the ground. That's a big hole.
Yeah.
That's where the cost adds up.
People walking through this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Corey, maybe this is a question for you. It may not be a question you can answer, but I know that we hear the 100-year storm amount thrown around, and I know it relates to, I understand what it means, but they're obviously not once in 100 years. So are you working with modeling that's predicting how frequently those are now, or do you just look at modeling of volume essentially?
Well, the 100-year events that they have, so there's a software we use to come up with these 100-year flows. That are generated. They actually have stream gauges in streams throughout the country through
Okay.
USGS.
Mhm.
And they monitor the flow rates from certain storms in those streams. So I'm not super familiar with how much they update those numbers, but I would think since they have ways to monitor the levels based on precipitation, they can adjust them as time goes on to be more accurate. But yeah,
The 100 years
Yeah.
also a probability, right? So
Right.
it's not that the storm's gonna necessarily happen once in 100 years. It's a 1% chance it's gonna happen every year
Right.
or multiple times, right? So. We're getting higher intensity, shorter duration events. So
but to add on to that, how we designed these was we evaluated the edge of pavement elevation and then went like 3 feet below that. So the water elevation is only hitting that point. It still has like 3 feet before it goes over the road. So there's that factor built into to be extra conservative, but that's based on the guidance that the New York State Department of Transportation has for culverts process. Base our design on their guidance.
Well, we've had municipal neighbors have huge road washouts in recent years. So,
the other community that was successful through this program as well, going through the planning grant and then replacing them, had roads washed out. Exactly that.
I don't want the roads to wash out, but
There you go.
we get to that point. So
All right.
starting to chip away the list. Thank you so much for your time
Absolutely.
tonight.
Thanks for having us here. Appreciate it as well.
Okay, you're welcome to stay. We're gonna talk about fund balance, which may or may not be.
We're not gonna have any after that.
That's a good point. Fair point. Matt, thank you for making the special trip in. Matt came in from Maryland today, just for us, so we appreciate it. Okay, yeah, where fund balance needs to go. But not all fund balance, because not all fund balance can go there. Okay, so a couple meetings ago, and we waited to bring this back, so you were back, Rich. We had a draft fund balance policy. Blixie incorporated her minor tweaks that she presented to the town board, her friendly amendments, that she presented to the town board a couple meetings ago. So this is the draft that was reviewed by the finance committee last week. Nothing has changed since then.
Okay.
And I know the finance committee has put lots of time into getting us to this point. So do you have any words to share?
Well, I think this is a perfect example of why we need a fund balance policy, because if we have certain funds with excessive amounts, that really should go into the culvert fund. We need to have that policy in place.
I agree, it's time for a fund balance.
Yeah, I
policy.
think, I mean, I don't really think it's reasonable, I think it's
Yeah.
doable, yeah.
Liz, did you have any questions or?
I don't think so. I mean, I think we went through this when it first came around and you said no changes really have been made
No, 5% here or there tweaking,
on like the target ranges.
you know.
Well,
If
and
we know that there's like something big, like these 6
Right.
culverts that are gonna be $1,000,000 to replace potentially. Is there some flexibility in these numbers if there's like a one-off case or what?
well, the policy, we can always, this is the target
Right.
range. And it's not a law.
Okay.
So by board action, if things can be
Something
modified,
comes up,
right,
Yeah.
like something needs to be replaced right away.
yeah.
The unappropriated fund balance may exceed target range in instances in which funds are earmarked particularly for use and not delineated within the reserve funds. So there you go, there you go.
So we can put as much money into reserves as we want, so it's, you know what I mean, we can.
Yeah.
The other component too is that we can't afford to replace all these bridges out of pocket, so we can't.
Linear.
So we're gonna have to solidify, we're gonna have to get money, we're gonna have to finance, long-term most likely. That's just
Yeah, but I mean, even if we get some of the grants, it's 25%.
Right.
On the ones that are.
on $2 million, but that's,
Or 2 million, that's $500,000.
right,
gotta
that's
have
$2
$1
million
million.
today,
Right.
and that bridge is years
So-
down the pipeline, even if we're, you
So
know,
that's a lot of money right there.
Yeah.
That's right.
We're gonna have to.
yes. Got
Okay.
cushions.
And that you finding people, I mean, you have to, municipalities have to borrow. On the whole, right?
And that's
Small-
part of our suggestion
small
about getting on the
municipalities.
plus system is you're in position to go after a loan if you need it.
Yeah,
Sets us up to have more options.
yeah.
So that sets up our future selves to have more options. Okay, well, I really appreciate all the work that has gone into the fund balance policy. I would be pleased to move it as an endorsement.
I'll second. Since you both have. Thank you
Any
very much.
further discussion? Comments? Okay, then I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
All right.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, motion carries. Wonderful, thank you. I am fighting my second pin of the night. No, it's like comes back and forth. Next up is our request for qualifications, the RFQ for the parking lot project. Where you have the copy of it, there's one printed copy of it. The final contract verbiage and other appendixes will be put in with the final document. The attorney has to approve and all contract verbiage when it goes to contract. Obviously, the town board would come back to see any contracts. The town attorney has signed off on this draft. And Michelle tells me that she reviewed the schedule with you, Carissa. Is that correct?
Yes.
And that there were no issues identified in the schedule in terms of public notification and all that process. So what this allows the town to do is put it out to bid for the full gamma range, or for the full gamut range from preliminary design all the way to final construction, but the construction won't be done by the design firm. And what this allows the town to do is there are steep patches built in each phase. So if we get through the first phase and we are satisfied, the town can go back to another RFQ process.
How does this relate to the other owners of the parking lots?
So that is, so this will only impact the town-owned portion of it. And the rest will have to be negotiated with legal counsel. But I don't want to spend money with legal counsel on negotiations until we got to that point. But there's money and estimates built in to assume that that's gonna have to be a prior negotiation.
Because it would be odd if we had to cut the pavement at a certain point and 1 foot over is a pothole.
I don't disagree, but we also are only allowed to improve our property
Right.
and we can invite them to participate in a coordinated project, but we can't pay for it. It seems like in the past, the town has just paid for it and we can't do that. So now we know better. We must do better. So it'll be a negotiation if they want to participate in. Otherwise, it will be the edge of our parking lot.
Well, where is
The edge.
our line like out there?
We have the driveway.
Yeah,
And so we have the driveway and most of the parking lot, almost all the way back to the very far back, and there's a strip that we don't own back there. So
There's a strip that we don't own?
far back, yeah, by the barn. So-
Edge of those woods.
Yeah, yep. So people will still be able to safely access our back parking lot and park in our spots.
Right.
So, yeah. I hear what you're saying, and hopefully others will like to participate.
So this will be coming up, this price, when we get the responses to the RFQ, we'll have the price for the conceptual design. price for a final design. Price to support the RFQ for the actual construction,
Yes,
development of the RFQ, I guess I should say, and support during the evaluation of the RFQ. And then this consultant would also provide the observations to make sure
Yes.
that the construction contractor is complying with the design that was
Yes.
approved.
yes,
So this is everything but the actual construction.
yes.
So by 7/1. We're really giving, that's
7-1.
7/1, we're gonna
This
know,
year?
we're gonna have all the responses, so we're gonna know the costs of what
We
this
go-
could be.
If we go tonight,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, we want.
Yeah, we're giving them a month, RFQ is due 6/8/26/28. Sorry. But we have to know all of this before the end of the year to use the ARPA funds, because they have to be committed by the end of this year, so, I mean, I think this seems like a good way to do this, just
Well,
get this moving and get this process going, see what we can actually accomplish.
well, and I think it's most efficient and most appropriate for the town to have, if it all works out nicely, the hope is to have the same design engineer firm overseeing it from start to finish and making sure that what we get was what was actually designed, and that there's somebody holding that
Yeah.
consistency together.
Yeah, I think that simplifies it, but also, like you said, it holds a consistency, so that we're not dealing with changes in the middle of the construction process because somebody new comes
Disagreed
in
with.
and doesn't like what somebody else proposed originally. So, okay,
It also means it saves us a ton of time not going back out to not going back out to bid. Through multiple phases, but still retaining our ability to escape.
You're saying that design for a contract for the contractor?
They won't do the they won't do the work they won't be the contractor for the construction, but they will help, they will get us all the way to final design. And then they will, work with us to develop the RFQ for construction. And then they will be the monitor, making sure that the construction company is doing what they're supposed to do to the correct design. So, because that's not something that anybody on staff has
Right.
the deep capacity to do. We don't have,
Yeah.
none of us have that experience. So, so that's a proposal.
Right.
so if this gets released tomorrow or next week, I guess I should say,
Yeah,
5/29, that's tomorrow.
yep, Michelle will, good to go.
Do we have a list of people we're gonna send it to, or just go put it out on some RFQ, like database?
Both.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it goes onto the database and then we push out to anybody that we know could be eligible to do it, but it's also hitting the list that people are monitoring. Your firm will probably see it and they will, I'm assuming pass, but it'll be on the list, I'm sure that you guys see.
Are we concerned at all? I guess I'm just thinking out loud now. The 6/21 date for the deadline for the intent to submit, is that too close? That's a week before the RFQs are due? And a week after the optional. I'm just wondering if that's too long, if we're not getting any respondents. Is that too late for us to make any adjustments?
So you'd like to bump the date earlier?
I'm just curious if it might make sense to find out who is intending to submit an RFQ response sooner than that.
We can, sure, if that's your recommendation, I'm happy to move forward.
What is your recommendation?
So the deadline for the intent to submit, so all these consultants will get the RFQ. For them to say, yes, I'm intending to submit is 6/21, which is only a week before they're due.
Right.
So
But
they have,
if
like-
for some reason we only get one or two. Are we okay with accepting one or two, or do we wanna move it like to? Whatever the end of the 6/13 week, 6/15. So that we have a little bit more time in case we need to push it out a little bit more or broadcast it more
I think
to make sure we get several respondents.
that's fine.
So what day would you like to propose altering it to? The week
What
before,
is the Friday before that?
the 14th? Or it's the 21st, I actually don't know if the 21st is a Friday.
I don't either.
It is, so it's the 14th.
Do people need, I don't know how much time people need between coming to see the
Yeah.
site and putting their intentions together.
What if we did, so Thursday's the site visit, they're gonna come here, we'll give them Friday to talk, and maybe the 17th, that's the Monday. Cause you're gonna come and you're either gonna decide, yes, it's worthwhile, let me go for it, or no, this is not. What is up, not gonna be something that we wanna chase.
Because we might need to schedule another
Yeah,
site
but
visit
that's
and
to
extend the
discuss
deadline.
with their superiors.
Yeah, but I mean, this is a quick turnaround,
Yeah.
so anybody who wants this is gonna be making these decisions, and they'll probably likely know before the 6/13 date whether they wanna go for it or not.
I would be
And the
surprised if
6:30.
they check the bridge out, they check it out beforehand anyway.
Right.
When they come to the property.
Right, cause it's open, so
Right.
anybody would be coming. So yeah, I think I would propose to do the deadline to the 6/17, move that up a few more days,
The 17th,
yeah.
sure. We can modify that in the resolution.
I can follow up with Michelle if you want.
So, with an alteration to the deadline to submit intention
Mhm.
to
The
deadline
deadline,
to
just moving the
submit
deadline.
intention to submit.
Yeah.
Submit to 6/21, to 6/17. So Carissa, I was just going to put that in the final resolved. A comma after construction inspection, and then just with an alteration to the deadline. And then just bracket that with comma. And then upon final approval from the Ulysses Town Board. Okay. Sounds like a good plan. Okay, is there a motion to approve? The acknowledging request for quotes for conceptual design, final design and construction.
So
inspection.
moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Okay. And then. That brings us down to, new business. Thank you so much. Have a good evening. New business, 6C, recreation supervisor position. That we have a position in the town that's currently, a program assistant, and there's, a temporary, it is designed, for that to be a, temporary position under civil service, and there's only an 18-month period. Where we'd be coming up on that 18-month termination period in September. And I just wanted to discuss with you converting that into a recreation supervisor position. It would not have any financial impact to the town. It would just solidify that position.
Make it a permanent one?
It's permanent, non-competitive. So. And that's
Same rate,
same rate, yeah.
same hours expected.
Yep.
For now.
Yep. That's, that position is doing not recreation, but is actually providing you services. In an existing individual. And so,
So moved.
Second.
well, I don't have I don't have a resolution for it. So what I would do is, I've come back with an appointment to that position, but.
You're all
Okay.
excited.
But as long as you're fine with it, I will proceed. Thank you. Okay, and then additional new business, we had the Community Preservation Act, the Roxanne circulated. And we have, I just gotta pull that up, sorry. There's a draft document that I sent out earlier, that she had provided.
So in conceptual terms, this is a fund that gets created to accrue money to do different things that are good for the town, the environment, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Yep.
Who makes the decisions on those projects? Us as a town board? Like, so if there's five towns, like houses are being sold, this tax comes in, it comes to the town, right?
Yeah.
No, well, the 2%, you mean?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll come to the
right.
town in a fund,
Right, so if you, let's say the median price of a house is 300K
right?
and the house sells for 400K. Then
The 100.
2% of 100,000 would go into the fund.
Right.
Right, so it should go directly into the fund.
That we have control over.
Yeah, I would think so. Is that how you understand?
Yeah, I mean, in the fact sheet.
Yeah,
I think the way that it's worded, I didn't read all the way through the actual legislation, but I sent the links, I dug them out. You're supposed to make an advisory board, citizen advisory board, and that advises the municipality on projects, but the town board obviously decides because the one that comes in town, and I don't think it has to be 2%, I think it's up to
Up to
2%. So I think that, I mean, it has to be a local law and it has to be a permissive referendum before
Right.
it's passed, so the board can decide what level of. It already exists as a possible thing to do, but I think that they're trying to change this to make it. Right now, one of the things I know is that if you want to do it as a municipality, you have to ask the legislature and the legislature approves each municipality individually. And so this is gonna make it such that there's another procedure to be able to do it and make it more streamlined and easy to do. And they might expand some of the things that you could use it for beyond others now.
It's an interesting idea.
I mean, I know that the town did start a little bit of
We
a
did.
fund to
Nancy
try to
started.
accumulate money for such things.
Right, right.
Instead of, putting it in the budget, so this would be a similar sort of way to accrue some funds. I mean, it seems to me, given that we're doing the comp plan and everything, it could be a useful thing for the town to think about if it, goes through and is easier to do, so.
I mean, we don't have to commit anything now, but before we vote it, before we enact it, I wouldn't mind seeing the actual number. So we have a median house price of 300. How many houses are actually sold? The number of houses sold above 300, what would be our projected income?
Yeah,
So we can evaluate how much it's worth it.
Right.
And if it's a couple of grand,
well, I think, isn't the initial thing that,
It still puts money in and,
yeah,
even if it's not a lot, I don't think, it costs you anything. But it's a long way down. This is just supporting.
yeah, this is
the
like
it's just writing a letter
board
saying,
support,
we support.
Yeah.
You consider it passing this.
state law.
Yeah, you don't have to do it, even if they do pass it.
but the way it's constructed, the buyer pays the 2%.
Right,
Yeah. So are we
so,
gonna discourage people from moving in here?
That's
With
that's
this-
what that does.
well,
If it's over.
If there's like, if it's like $1 million house, that's a lot more money. I know there's about a few $1 million houses, but we're getting up,
you know,
every day.
we're getting up there.
people are paying
That would be 14,000.
a lot of money for houses as it is.
And $1 million house is $14,000. What? What?
Well, no, nothing.
Yeah, but if it's, you can have the same house here
Or you could be in.
or right,
Clover.
right next door
Right.
and you don't have to pay that $14,000 there.
Well, that's like Seneca Road, so, I mean. On one side, it's Seneca
Yeah.
County, on
That's
the other
right.
side is Tompkins.
But it is an extra tax on people. And if we can get a similar property,
I mean, not that I wanna encourage development from coming in. I'd rather see a fund or something go on projects like that, like development coming into the town than homeowners.
well, this is.
Yeah, if it does, if it did discourage homeowners, then. Especially like higher end. That's the thing is,
I mean, sometimes maybe, yeah, 14,000 isn't much for,
I mean, somebody
people
buying a
buying
$1
$1
million
million
house,
house.
$14,000 isn't. It's not
Yeah,
gonna
it's
be make or
not-
break the deal.
That's what I was.
No, but you never know. I mean, just because then that also is before other taxes that come in.
Right, so maybe do one, but we don't have to decide on any of that. now.
We just have to
Yeah.
decide whether we,
wanna support
Voice
it.
support to the assembly.
I would have felt better if the seller pays it. When you split it.
I wonder if you could do that.
I don't think that's the way it's
That's
written.
worded, yeah.
Yeah,
Seems a little pejorative to the buyer.
right. we are trying to, I mean, a lot of the discussions have been about affordable housing around here. And granted, some of those affordable houses might not meet this criteria.
Right, because
But-
it only kicks in at 300, above 300.
Well,
Or
that's
whatever the
whatever the
median
median
Right,
is.
let's say it's
It's probably
300.
closer to 400 now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Could be.
so,
well, I mean, I think sending a letter of support as a tool, I don't have a problem with it as a general tool. I think that becomes a much more nuanced conversation when you apply it locally, and it sounds like the way it's written is that each local government could have an ability to opt in, and we want to hear from the people.
Yeah,
Right, want to get, so this doesn't require us to get public feedback, because we're just saying that this is another, could be another tool in our tool chest.
Yeah, I
And
guess
then whether or
I'd like
not,
to support the
I think
idea.
it's okay to support, and then we can have further discussions if it gets passed,
yeah, if it doesn't get passed,
right, there's nothing. And then we can really dig into it, and if this has to go to permissive referendum, then yeah,
It's a mandatory.
It's mandatory,
so we're gonna be hearing from.
right, the people.
so we will want to schedule it when it can be put on a general election ballot,
Right,
because
right.
you're looking at two people who don't want to hear the words.
So that'll be covered.
Granted.
It's mostly Carissa, but I promise that I would serve as a buffer.
All
No,
right,
that's
so-
fine.
So
I
we're
mean,
gonna
it-
write a letter in support
We
of
can
it.
sign,
yeah, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So
The state
then-
legislature.
So I would I'm writing a resolution on the fly, and then I have to do a mea culpa because I forgot something that's in the packet, but is not in the agenda packet, so we have to fix that. Anyway, I'll write this on the fly. Resolve that the Ulysses Town Board approves the town supervisor to sign the New York Preservation Act memorandum in support.
So I have, so that's sort of, probably when it came time for negotiation of buying or selling the house, the buyer could say, well, let's split it. Or the seller, so.
Yeah,
there might be some,
Is there wiggle room there
negotiations.
that each one could pay half?
yeah.
Seems.
as
to-
long as the ultimate, payee
Pay-
to the town
right,
is
it's
the
the same,
buyer, they
right.
could say. To the seller.
Yeah.
Knock off 1,000 or
Yeah,
pay 1,000 or whatever.
You know, I mean,
It could get interesting.
yeah, you could negotiate that. My guess is it's like mortgage tax that the person who has to pay the mortgage tax pays
Mortgage,
half,
right.
but it could be that, you
Yeah.
have a negotiation otherwise of
Right.
concessions to offset.
Yeah,
So now we dipped into real estate law. So,
No, thank you.
well, I made a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Thank you, Roxanne. Appreciate you bringing it.
There's other municipalities that have done it too, so maybe we'll end up, could learn more about it.
Yeah.
Sounds good. And so what I realized, it was in the resolutions packet about the citizen pruners contract. And we did not put, so I wondered if someone would make a motion to add, I will move an addition of item, new business F, to the agenda, which is the citizen pruners contract.
Oh, yeah, the resolutions there, but.
Yeah, the resolution's there. It just didn't make the agenda list. So I moved that. Is there a second?
Second,
All those in favor for amending the agenda to include, citizen pruners? Contract, item F?
aye.
Hi.
Aye. Rich? We're just adding it to the agenda.
yeah,
We're not approving.
yeah,
Okay, cool, thank you. That leads us back to new business item, E, 30-day review for the waiver for New Park Catering. So they are applying for a liquor license, and what they're requesting for us, we could take no action. And in taking no action, they would have to go through a 30-day wait period, with New York State. They're requesting that, we waive our right to 30 days review for provide feedback on the liquor license. That's what they're requesting tonight. So we can take no action, or we can opt to waive.
well, I don't think anyone's gonna go visit and research the alcohol license for New Park, so why not give them the 30?
I'm honestly
waiver?
surprised I don't have one already.
Right,
I
With
think
all the
it's
weddings they host, but
it's a commercial, well, yeah, I mean, that's why they bought outside of us and someplace that had a liquor license, so.
They own the place.
Cedarwood,
Cedar,
yes.
yeah.
They don't see them.
So.
I'll leave it.
Okay, so, the resolution will be resolved that the Ulysses Town Board, waives. Its 30-day, review process for the proposed liquor license for New Park. Yep. Inn and Catering, is that the full name?
It is New Park Event Venue,
There you go.
it's the trade name.
Okay, is
So moved.
there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And then the next item is and this was circulated at a previous meeting. So it would be approving the Citizenpreneurs contract pending final legal approval. They are just like hashing out just the very minute basic things to try and get this contract, which has taken way longer than any
So tell me
reasonable
what
contract.
this does.
So, Cornell Cooperative would come in and provide training, to people about how to properly trim trees. Not climbing up in ladders to trim trees, but to trim trees safely from the ground. And, trim them as is appropriate from an arborist
So
perspective.
they won't trim them, they're gonna train people?
They're gonna train people to do it, and it's gonna be on town property. So, we worked with the highway superintendent, DPW commissioner, and, he had, and so did insurance and legal, had great qualms about doing it alongside the roadways,
Right.
because most of town-owned roads are 55 miles an hour. And, he had some real safety concerns about having volunteers trimming a town right away, and also, like, they're doing a good job, like, but we have the Salo Habitat, which is town-owned. It does not involve fast-moving vehicles, and it has plenty of trees that need to be trimmed. And so, the village is willing to, if we can invoice them before the end of this month, they're willing to kick in half the money of $1,200, before their fiscal year ends.
Kicking 1,200?
They'll kick in 1,200, and then it would be us kicking in an additional 1,200, and we have the funds available minus like $30. That I would have to approve, to pay for it. And it will allow that training to happen.
And the training's open to anybody, or they've
Yep.
already,
Nope, it's training's open to the members of, they'll be the town and village. To come learning how to properly trim.
Is there a demand for this?
They have this program in Ithaca
So Andy
for a long
Hillman,
time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, Andy Hillman was one of the designers of this program originally, so. And I think he'll be leading said training. Or maybe he's not leading it, but he's definitely gonna be like the town's point person on being there, so,
For the actual work,
yeah.
days and
So,
sort of like taking care of T-bird for trees.
Mhm.
so how many times, what's the timing? What's the time, how many hours are they gonna come and do the training?
I could look delve into the contract for you, I can't tell you off the
But
top
this
of my
Like
head,
10 weeks or 4 weeks?
something like
10
that.
weeks?
No, I don't think it's that long.
So no one come to the board and explain it to you. I mean, it would be good if you go to the contract, but she's on our conservation committee, right? And she's been working on it.
So it's really
A lot about it.
2,400, but the village of Trimblesburg is kicking in 12.
Yeah, look again,
Like
if we,
half and half.
if we approve it tonight and we can invoice it for them.
'Cause they're
Cause they're gonna do village,
Their year ends,
village properties too.
it'll be inside the village also, yep. So it'd be 10 to 20 sessions per season on a weekly schedule, and this can change, it's a smaller need, it's determined.
So that's trimming sessions,
Right.
but there's training sessions that's fewer
Is that
than that.
training?
I think it's 4. I'm not. sure.
There are 3 or 4 classes taught, by City of Ithaca staff, CC, ETC, horticulture staff and other specialists. So they do the trainings, and then there are, work sessions. So the town is not just paying for the people to learn how to do it, they're also, the public will benefit from publicly owned trees being properly trimmed.
Right, so Sailor Habitat, this kind of goes towards hopefully a management plan of some sort being developed for this habitat.
Yep.
And then those pruners can go out and implement the maintenance plan,
Or at least part of it.
part of it.
So I'm just thinking about the admin side of this. It says Ulysses will provide the following, coordinating schedule of classes, identify work sites for weekly work sessions, post work sessions from May to October, 10 to 20 sessions per season on a weekly schedule. Send emails to volunteers to notify them of where to meet for a weekly work session, provide gloves, safety vest, water. Help supervise and instruct volunteers, schedule pickup of brush trimming. I'm just wondering how.
It's a great question, Chris.
So this is actually in the section where some of the Nate's requested changes are going to exist, because, coordinating with the scheduling of classes, it's basically having, in the original model, it's, a lot of the stuff happens in roadways and in public right of ways, because that's where the majority, if you think about the city of Ithaca's trees, where are they located? A lot of them are located, right, they're city streets. And so you do have to cordon off, you do have to put up safety, things like that. Because we are going to, because Scott has already said he does not want volunteers trimming trees in a 55-mile-an-hour right of way. The intention would be, from the town of Ulysses perspective, is it would be at Salo. Almost exclusively. And so the work sites, identifying work sites is by that,
Salem.
very easy.
Who's gonna coordinate this for me?
So the assistance, my understanding is the assistance necessary in coordinating is mostly just promotion. So it's, they're going to, because obviously their training staff is gonna come on a schedule that they can work in. And we have to be able to assist with the coordination in the sense of having someone on site. And that was another one of the things of who the assistants on site will be. Nate, legal counsel has indicated that he, in this case, would be comfortable with a volunteer doing it, Andy Hillman, because of his professional experience. And so we're allowed to designate people to be in charge of things or do things on a volunteer basis that have responsibility when the person's qualifications match what we'd otherwise pay someone else to do. So Andy would be willing, and he's pushing for this. He wants to do this. And so the hosting is that it'll be on our property. Right, that's the hosting component, pushing out emails to people, notifying them. And this is actually where some of the liability concerns, the concerns is the wrong word. They wanted, insurance and legal wanted clarification on whose volunteers they are. Because CCE sees them as their volunteers. But in this contract, it says that we have responsibilities for volunteers. And so what Nate is proposing is that there's gonna be, CCE has a contract or has a liability waiver. So that people indemnify CCE for, a branch smacks them on the way down, which would obviously be awful. But the town would have, working with Marissa, Nate has worked with Marissa on that, has indicated that Cornell Cooperative would be fine with people signing a town waiver also. That's where we are.
What's I'm sorry, I don't know this, the $2,400, what is that payment going to
For the training primarily.
to pay Cornell Cooperative Extension?
It's to pay for those
Yeah.
individuals to come out and teach the classes.
More volunteers, I guess, who charge for their time.
That's what Okay.
So they're not, are the volunteers are the people who are gonna be learning in the
Are-
classes.
Our
Our
citizens,
residents,
our
our
residents,
citizens, yes.
okay.
So we're paying for the educational opportunity.
I just don't know what kind of interest you need.
I would also point out that the tree committee has effectively fundraised money to pay to offset this. So the financial impact of the town with the village being willing to contribute $1,200. It's beyond their budget by the tune of less than $50. So it's not a sizable break from the money they have available in their line. So
I mean, I guess anybody who wants to learn how to prune and work on your own yard,
Right,
come
learn,
Yeah.
learn,
Well,
yeah.
I think that's
so
what
that
it
we
is.
can all maintain
that's
our own
also- yeah,
yards.
yeah,
So that, I
yeah.
mean, that's what we have to push. It's
Right.
not like you're coming to
Right.
maintain Sailor Habitat, come to learn at Sailor Habitat,
Yeah.
at the town, but
Yeah.
Exactly.
learn how to do it on your own.
You know,
So you might get it.
my wife would probably do.
Yeah, I think, I mean, there's a lot of people that do taking care of
their
deer.
trees, yeah, right,
I mean, that's pre-labor.
right.
I mean, everybody probably should go, but
I'm kind of interested.
Well, I think it's really easy to inadvertently.
I have no trees in
damage
my
the
yard.
tree.
I live
Right.
in a farm field.
All right,
Alright. So, so a motion, to approve the contract pending, because your concerns are not lost, lost on me and are not lost on Nate, but we need to be able to move forward to at least get that resolved, otherwise we lose the $1,200 that the village has. So.
So I'll-
subject to looking at the rest, the legalese that's coming.
Well, so you can't approve it pending legal approval, so it would, what you're saying in this is that you trust Nate to hammer out those
Yeah.
details. If you're not comfortable doing that, then I would say do not approve this tonight and wait to see that final draft. But if you do that, then the 12, then we're not, then we'll need to plan to pay for it out of pocket or scale it down.
I mean, I trust Nate, I guess, to do it. I don't wanna start anything until it's all in place.
Oh, no, we would never do that. We would never do that. So. If you have specific concerns that you have not raised tonight, if you want to raise them now or reach out to me, I'll make sure that Nate is aware of those.
Yeah, the waiver of liability is
Yeah.
critical.
Yes, we are definitely on top of that. I think the likelihood is low, especially, I think being on a high speed road would be,
When would this start?
ideally this summer.
after contract.
Yes. Yeah. So we missed May, but there's still many months of beautiful weather ahead. Hopefully beautiful weather ahead.
So I'm still not clear, who's gonna do the scheduling and make sure? I mean, what Carissa read was a reasonable amount of work.
So I will bring that to Dave's attention. It's my understanding that the schedule is a lot less about the volunteers and a lot more about the trainers being able to come out
Right,
at a time when the trainers are available. It's a publicly accessible space, so it doesn't require the infrastructure necessary to turn it into a safe place. That would require more scheduling on Scott's side, right? To make sure that in that case, he would have to have staff on site on a weekend on overtime to make that happen. It's a much different thing when you move to Sailor
I'm
Habitat.
fine with that. I'm
So-
just saying somebody's gotta coordinate. I mean, I haven't heard who's coordinating this yet.
So it's my understanding, and I can confirm this, it's my understanding that they'll pick the dates and the real coordination is us pushing out the information to our citizens.
Right, and how is that gonna happen?
So that would happen through our
newsletter.
Facebook page, our newsletter,
Yeah.
yeah.
And all the rest of the stuff that you listed off in terms of getting the PPE and the gloves, and
Safety
pruners and all that stuff.
How's that gonna?
I would assume that would be CCE, not you.
Well, it's not gonna be Carissa either way.
Okay.
So
Andy or
in the
DC.
city of Ithaca provides it. I would talk to but the city of Ithaca is a DPW in the way that city DPWs are. They're using smaller equipment in a lot of cases, right, than what we are. We're a DPW now too, but so we would try and talk to the village, and I have not had this level of granular detail with the village. We haven't talked to the village about what equipment they can share. I do know that in previous cases where work has happened, that the DPW in the village has provided safety vests and things like that. So
We don't have an inventory of safety vests.
we actually do have an inventory of safety vests, but I don't know how many pruners we have.
Who had all the safety vests for the
Earth Day.
birthday?
Pretty sure
Was
that's
that
the village DPW.
The CSEC?
Yeah, no, I cake got them from somebody.
Might be the
I think
village.
some of them were from the village.
Yeah, they previously.
Cause there were
done
a
it.
ton of them.
The pruning tools, they're gonna bring, I think I forgot who's loaning them those tools, but I don't think that but my understanding from Marissa, it's too bad I don't have the phone number, you call it, is that they are gonna bring up, we don't have to, the town doesn't have to have the pruning tools or anything. They have that.
Right, it's only,
available to load, that the people are gonna load them when they come in for the trainings and bring them. At least that's what she said at our meeting, this is that.
And what budget line is it? We didn't budget for this,
it's in there's a committee line for the tree committee,
which you're saying we have the money.
we do.
All right.
Yeah.
There's the money, go for it.
And the extra $30 you can have out of the CSAP budget.
There you go.
Good to know. I don't, and off the top of my head, I know it's in the range of $30, but I can't remember exactly how much. It was so
Probably have
small.
Like at least 200 left, so.
Nice.
Well, Feldman Lamont, he's the head of the tree committee.
That's right.
Right.
So, well, I make a motion to approve, the contracts pending legal approval. Or legal, that's not.
Review.
Legal review, which will involve changes. I will bring the concerns raised back to make sure that they are addressed, and, we can move forward, and then, it does direct, Carissa to invoice the village. Or somebody on your behalf, if you need somebody else on your behalf to do it, by the end of May,
At the end of the
Friday.
week, yeah.
Thursday,
Yeah.
right? Or the-
Right, yeah.
So we can,
Okay, second.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That was the longest conversation.
Okay, well, you're already at our upcoming event of a regular meeting, which I did not remove. Next, June 6th, there's, the training, at Town Hall.
So I'm gonna be out of town, so I'll have to do it online.
Okay, that's no problem. There'll be, a Zoom link. I will let Michelle know. Michelle will get you a Zoom link.
I'm gonna be in the field.
Michelle and Rich, sorry, Michelle will get Rich and Liz. No problem. And then that evening, we're gonna have an open house at the library, from 6 to 7:30, welcoming the public to, meet Zach and hear from Zach and Rachel, about, our youth services offerings. We were able to start a service, middle school programming just last week, with Zach as our new hire. And he had the surprise of last night, 5 more people registered for a program today. And so he thought he had one set of numbers, and then he had another set of numbers that he's had to stand up, with that group, which is a wonderful problem to have, not a problem at all. Then our next regular meeting is, June 11th. Any other items of note people wanted that I might have missed?
June 5th, we have a comp plan steering committee meeting if anybody wants to attend virtually, any public. You guys don't have to.
Okay, so we have, thank you for that. Anything else on the schedule?
IT consultant here. Board member.
Oh, yeah, we have to do approval of minutes first, and then I'll do that. We had, minutes presented, in the packet. They were from the May 14th meeting. Did anybody see anything they wanted or needed altered? I didn't,
I did not.
okay.
I'll make
So
a motion to approve
as presented,
as presented.
great. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Was it there, so I should probably abstain.
You are actually allowed to vote if you trust, our reading of it. There you go. Okay, then board notifications. I already did the New York, SEFC plus. And then, the next one is the IT consultant. Let me find my notes just a sec. So I mentioned in a previous meeting, that we were, needed to bring in a third-party consultant, to help us navigate the new systems that we put in place. We had some billing questions, that we needed resolved and when I say billing questions, the invoicing, and explanation of work accomplished, is not always in English, even if the individual words are in fact in their native tongue. Put together, they are much more confusing. So we actually brought someone else in to help parse out, what work had been done, what work still needed to be completed to help us understand from the town side. As a result of that, we were able to recapture, a significant number of hours, to correct, to basically bring the work down into contract compliance. And so get the clarification on that. And so to the tune of about 35 hours, block plan hours, out of a contract of 100, swung back to us having that in our favor. From the original one, because we were seeing things that we were confused about and needed clarification on. And so, we were able to get that reconciled. In the process of that, while doing that, it was falling under the less than $3,000 that I can approve. And so I approved that. We're crossing the threshold of $3,000 this month. And the reason we're doing that, so I'm just notifying you because we're staying below the $6,000, which requires your approval. It's notification that we're crossing that threshold. And it's largely because the model we've adopted in moving into our new IT systems is mostly remote assistance. And so that's fine if you have a problem with your password or your software is being glitchy. Somebody comes in through your computer and remotely fixes it. But the next thing we're doing is the next phase of the approved project is to do our phone upgrades. Our phones are 25-ish years old. They're no longer supported. And the phone upgrade project that we have already approved does not pay for anybody to be on site. And to do, because what it is, it really is, it's supposed to be as simple as plugging in, and then the work on all the connectivity can happen remotely. Now, that sounds like it would be perfect, right? And it's super simple, except it's not super simple because you get into an office like mine and the cord that needs to be accessed is actually literally hidden behind a built-in piece of equipment. So we brought Ben on site and he's now been here twice to go through and make sure that each office has the infrastructure necessary to actually make this upgrade. So we had two choices. We could pay Advance 2000 to come in and be on site to help do this, or we could pay Ben, who has proven himself to be very helpful in helping us navigate and actually speak, but put all those English words into order that my English brain can understand. And actually, he's going to be the person who, when we do the phone upgrade, he's going to be here on the phone, on his cell phone with Advance 2000, navigating that. If it wasn't him, it would be somebody on staff. And what we've learned, and Carissa can pipe in if she disagrees, but it takes us, it's not that we couldn't do the work, it takes us exponentially longer to do the work, and with no clear notion that we will be successful at the end, just because you have to be able to navigate the different technological infrastructure. Is that a fair summary? So
Okay,
we're that's where we are. So that's a notification. So any questions on that? Okay, then we are back to privilege of the floor. And Linda has joined us online, so we may have multiple privileges of the floor. Is there anybody in person who wishes to address the board? Okay,
oh, and add something.
okay.
So in the planning board, Pete did you discuss this already? I don't think it was known at the last meeting.
He did notify that he's resigning.
Okay, so we need to find, somebody, do we have a chair yet?
We have not appointed a chair.
So we need to do that. And then we also need to get one or two alternates on the planning board, because we don't have any now.
So we would have to appoint an alternate. We would have to advertise. I think we have to.
I was gonna say, I thought we had an alternate.
You did, but he became but he could,
Linda might know.
no, Pete resigned. So
Right.
So now
the
that
alternate
person becomes
becomes-
a board member,
Not
if they
automatically.
want to, and if we want them
Right,
to.
right.
And in this case, he's very good, Carl, so
Yeah. I like
I have no problem having him be.
Oh, I was only saying it doesn't happen automatically. Just,
Automatically, right.
that's it. That's all I was saying. I wasn't commenting.
Linda, do you have any thoughts?
Do I have some? No, no, other than we need someone since I'll be chairing in the interim, so it would be nice to have someone sooner than later. To do.
So we have to search for people, we need to put them in place.
It will be in the newsletter this week. So,
Yeah, great.
well, Linda, did you have anything proposed to the floor?
No, I didn't. Thanks.
Okay. Back to the room, anybody in person?
Oh, I forgot, I did have one thing. I found out today that I got the notification that we qualify. We can put in a proposal for $10,000 grant for the clean energy communities work, and then we're gonna get. We have qualified, but we haven't gotten the notice yet for 50,000 more. So I met with Michelle and Scott, and we walked around the town of Barnes because it needs to be for municipal energy improvements, and since we've done pretty much everything we can with this building, that one makes the most sense, so, we just look at what's on the long range capital plan and what Scott thought was needed and what might be possible. And, to pull together some estimates of different amounts that things might cost and what might be reasonable to bring to the board to decide what we want to propose.
Great.
And we can either do the 10,000 as one thing and the 50 once we get that notification as a separate thing, or $160,000. And so the $50,000 worth is 20, though, the 70, it's, I'm not sure if it's 2575, but it's something like that. The 75 or whatever's the larger amount, is reimbursable after you complete it and do submit all the project metrics the same way this grant for the town hall was. But the 10,000, if we do it separately, is just the money would come to the town once they approved the proposal, so. It's just a matter of figuring out what makes sense, so.
Good, thank you.
Anyway, so we're working on pulling together some ideas, our committee and. Show.
That's great.
Great. Excellent, thank you. Very much. Well, Rich?
Move to adjourn.
Second.